What is up, guys? I do hope you're well. My name is Mark, and today we're covering some more r/am I the butthole. If you're new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too, as it all really helps out our channel. And don't forget, we're on podcast 2 now, so you can take me with you wherever you go. And of course, if you really want to, you can support the channel either through YouTube membership or Patreon, where we have different tiers of memberships and all that other good stuff. And yesterday we had 2 new members. We had Fred Gomez, thank you for joining us, and we had a little Spartan. Thank you so much. And with that being said, let's get in to today's stories. Much love, guys. Our first story comes from Aggravating Act 6. Am I the arse of cutting off my mother when she got a paternity test for my daughter? I've been with my wife for 8 years. We have 2 children, a 5-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old son. I've known since my wife got pregnant there was a possibility our daughter wasn't my biological child. I don't care. She's my daughter and my wife has never been unfaithful. However, I don't want to know if she is or she isn't biologically related to me, and I've never wanted to know. Edit to include the full story, as people are assuming she cheated. My wife and I were together for around 2 years when we had a fight and broke up. We were broken up for 3 months, during which we both slept with other people, and then we got back together. Approximately 2 months of being back together, my wife found out she was pregnant. We knew there was a possibility of one other man being the biological father, and it was a toss-up between me and him, but it was more likely to be mine. My wife was honest with me that she had slept with other people when we got back together, and I was equally honest, and the window of conception for our daughter was just large enough we couldn't say for sure if she was conceived when we were together or apart, and while she offered to get our daughter tested, I didn't want to know. My entire family were aware we broke up and got back together. Visibly, she looks like her mother. Same dark hair, same dimples, same bone structure, and I see bits of myself in her too, mainly in her mannerisms, but the only part that doesn't match up being her eyes, which are brown, while mine are green and my wife's are blue. Meanwhile, my son, with his green eyes, blonde hair and bone structure, looks like I cloned myself, and looks very different to his dark-haired, dark-eyed sister. My mother has noticed and remarks on it often. This really gets my wife's hackles up, both because of that reality behind it, which my mother is unaware of, and because she and my mother have clashed a few times in the past. They are very different people and their personalities just don't mix. Then a few months ago, my wife's sister and my best friend, they're married, got into a car accident. They were in the hospital with one of their 3 kids, while the other 2 were at home alone, so we asked my mother to watch our kids while we helped them out. Our kids were with her and my dad for about 5 hours. Last week, my mum came over and said she had something important to tell me. When she had my daughter unsupervised, she did one of those DNA test kits on my daughter, comparing it to her own DNA, which she apparently ordered months ago for this exact purpose and was waiting to use it. And it confirmed my daughter isn't biologically related to me, and she began to tell me about a lawyer she could get me in touch with to begin divorce proceedings. I told her this changes nothing, she's still my daughter and that's my wife she's talking about. Mum was shocked and called my wife some names I don't care to repeat. I told her then to get out of my house. It's been nearly a week. I told my wife, blocked my mother on everything, and there's been constant calls and texts. My mother is furious I never told her that I had an inkling and has since disowned my daughter, but says my son is still her special little guy, so she wants a relationship with my son but not my daughter. In addition to my mother, all 5 of my siblings, 3 sisters, 2 brothers, and dad are angry with me. They want me to get back in touch, and a couple of them have even said I should thank my mum for what she did, and she was looking out for me, and now I know. However, I can't justify my mother going behind my back to get a DNA test on my daughter without consulting me. I feel like I'm in the right, but I also feel like I could be overreacting, and I would appreciate another perspective, as I'm seriously considering cutting contact with my mother over this. Am I the arsehole? And we'll dive down into the comments with Mama Bear Jam. Not the arsehole. This was your choice and had nothing to do with your mother. She did this solely to hurt your wife. If you allow your mother to have a relationship with your son while not having one with your daughter, you'd be a terrible father. Blood doesn't make a father. Some random ghost says, I 100% agree with you. The mother shouldn't have done anything and should have just minded her own business. OP is doing nothing wrong by cutting his mother off. Not the arsehole, OP. Not the arsehole. Sidetrack says, I kind of feel like it might have been okay if it was under the delusion that the child was his, but he knew about the possibility she wasn't his, didn't care, and didn't want to have a definitive answer either way. Who the hell is the mother to take that decision away from him, or worse yet, disown his own daughter because of it? Definitely not the arsehole. Rainmaker says, even if he had the delusion the kid was his, it wouldn't be okay. She has no right to grab anyone's kid and perform a DNA test without consent whatsoever. Not the arsehole. Mother would be the arsehole in every possible scenario. No consent from parents. Arsehole move. Wow, what a situation to be in. But I gotta totally agree with those comments that the mother is the arsehole in the situation. She had no right to do that, to overstep the mark like that. And you couldn't blame the dad for wanting to cut her off, especially for the remarks that she doesn't want to see the daughter after this. Ah, God. But what do you guys think of this story? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on the poll in the description for story 1. Our next story comes from Get Off My Beach. Am I the arsehole, or I guess we are, for making a family that is trespassing on my property uncomfortable? 26 male. My boyfriend and I live in a lake house. I have 2 brothers and our father hasn't been in the picture since I was 15, and my boyfriend's father left him and his mum when he was really young. My brothers are 24 and 21. The 24-year-old has a girlfriend who I think is 23. My brothers and the girlfriend came to spend the weekend with us. We have a lakefront property and a little probate beach area. We have signs up that states it's private property to deter trespassers and cameras that monitor the beach. This afternoon, we had been taking a break after going on a jet ski. My youngest brother was helping me cook lunch, and my other brother and his girlfriend had decided to go down to the beach. They came back up and told me that there were people on our beach. They'd asked them to leave, but they didn't. My boyfriend went down to investigate, and apparently there was this whole boatload containing 5 adults and 4 kids. He again asked them to leave and told them it was private property. They refused. He called the police and ate lunch as we waited for the police to come. Over an hour has gone by and the police hasn't showed up. He'd been planning to go down to the beach after lunch, so we decided to go down and try and annoy the family into leaving. We played music with explicit lyrics, nothing too bad but still. Brought down alcoholic drinks and played drinking games. We purposely and out of character acted rowdy, not putting a filter on what we said. My boyfriend and I, who are not the ones for PDA, kept holding hands, making out and stuff because there was a good chance this group of people was homophobic. We live in the south. After a while, the group got fed up and left. Before the group left, one of the women yelled at us, "Shame on you people for ruining what was supposed to be a nice Father's Day for my husband and brother. We just wanted a good day on the lake and didn't need to witness frat boys gone wild." I shrugged and I said, "I mean, this is my property. My family and I can do whatever the fuck we want on it. Next time, do as you're told and stay the fuck away." The adults in the group looked disgusted. One of the men looked like he was about to yell at us for what we said, but instead, they just drove off. The police came much later and obviously weren't any help. As we discussed what happened, my brother's girlfriend mentioned that what we did was immature and kind of rude, and we could have just handled it better. Were we the arseholes? Squirrel Girl VA says, not the arsehole, they're the ones trespassing. Honestly, they're lucky you're not the type that would come down brandishing guns and demanding they get off your property. Clearly they weren't going to leave, and honestly, what you did was likely one of the least dramatic ways to resolve this. If the police came and people refused, they could have ended up spending a day in jail or paying fines for breaking the law. Gone Snow says, not the arsehole, the entitlement on some people is mind-boggling to me. If this happened by accident to me and I was told I was trespassing, I wouldn't be able to apologise enough while I'm packing my things and leaving as quickly as I can. Skim Cola says, this right here, apologise for the misunderstanding and get the fuck out. Now, I think you gave them plenty of warnings the first 2 times and they were just refusing, so, you know, you dealt with it in a different way. The police were obviously going to turn up much later, so, you know, I think you just got to deal with it the way you got to deal with it. If people are going to be rude and trespass on your property, you do what the hell you want. But what do you guys think of this story? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote in the poll in the description for story 2. Our next story comes from, I'm so sick of these kids. Would I be the arsehole if I asked my wife to send their kids back to their dad? I have 2 stepdaughters who are 17 and 19, and I've been with my wife for 8 years. When she divorced her ex, he got primary custody for a couple of reasons. It was what the kids want, she worked a lot, and she had a little bit of a drinking problem. She saw them every other weekend, and I think she's a great mum, but apparently I'm biased. Now, I don't think it's entirely their fault, but these girls are spoiled, entitled, and make it pretty clear that they only see their mum because of money. For context, she has a very lucrative career, but her ex refused to work, and they feel like she abandoned them for her career. So they came to stay with us about a month ago, when they got sick of quarantine. We live in a much nicer house than her ex, and have a pool and a gym. I completely believe they are here because of the house, and not because of their mum. I don't mind, I was a teenager once too, but they are so rude to her. The 19-year-old took one women's studies class at college, and now she's a third-wave feminist, and the 17-year-old is constantly asking for money. I work hard as well to pay for our lifestyle, and I'm sick of not being able to relax in my house. I finished working from home, and I want to go and hug and kiss my wife, but the kids have to make a face. I want to be able to banter like we normally do, without the 19-year-old policing if it's politically correct or not. My wife was never an alcoholic. She drank because she was in a loveless, emotionally abusive marriage, and she can drink responsibly with no problem, but God forbid she has a glass of wine in front of these kids. Mostly I just want our marriage to be easy like it was a month ago. My wife is always getting into fights with her kids, and then I have to comfort her. Last night I ended up getting in a huge fight with a 19-year-old over dinner. My wife didn't want to cook, but there was plenty of food in the house and she gave them permission to order something, but it turned into a screaming match over how she would have cooked if I asked. Maybe she would have, but I'm actually nicer to her throughout the day. So last night I got to listen to my wife's little tantrum. She normally dresses sexy for bed, but she fell asleep in my shirt with makeup all over her face, and it was a little ridiculous, so I took a picture. I was teasing her this morning about it, and the 19-year-old has to get involved about how her mum doesn't have to look good for me. I'm really at my breaking point, and they have a father who they supposedly love. So would I be the arsehole if I asked my wife to ask them to leave? The Lavender author says, "You're the arsehole. Being politically correct legit means treating people with respect." And the last paragraph, and then quotes. So last night I got to listen to my wife's little tantrum. She normally dresses sexy for bed, but she fell asleep in my shirt with makeup all over her face, and it was a little ridiculous, so I took a picture. Really? Calling your wife's venting a tantrum and complaining about her not dressing sexy for bed? Wow. Demo Beck says, "You're the arsehole. You sound like a major arsehole. All the focus is on how you want your wife's attention, not on how your wife's problems affected her relationship with her kids. You should be encouraging your wife to try harder with them, not be taking photos of her sleeping to take the piss when she doesn't dress sexy for you." Gomlump replies, "Exactly, he sounds like he is jealous of the children because he is no longer the one who gets his wife's attention, especially where he says that if the kids would be nice, as he is, then the wife would maybe make them dinner. Is that a competition? Just sounds very childish to me." Big Shoots replies, "If he encouraged her to leave her husband to be with him, then he 100% doesn't care about those kids and is jealous of any attention they take from their mother that would otherwise be going to him." My initial thoughts while I was reading this is that the kids are probably a bit messed up from if there was a drinking problem in the background. I don't know how severe it was, but if there was a drinking problem in the background, they probably saw a lot of stuff which they didn't want to see. And telling them not to drink wine and freaking out about it, obviously they've clearly got something in the back of their head that's mentally damaged them. So, you know, you can't blame these kids for lashing out the way they are. And at the same time, and they're just trying to build bridges with their mother now. And you're just standing in the middle throwing a tantrum yourself, which just sounds like an asshole move. But anyway, I turn it to you guys. What do you think of this situation? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on the poll in the description for story 3. Our next story comes from Throwaway Account. Am I the arsehole for being mad at my fiance for speaking a different language? I've been with my fiance, 27 male, for over 3 years now. We're both American and live in America. I've known him only to speak English until last night. Last night we were walking out of our apartment building and he made a joke and I was laughing and not looking at where I was going, and I bumped into a couple and apologised. The male in the couple said something back to me in Asian language. My fiance lost his shit with the couple and they had an argument in the streets in this language. It was back and forth and arguing until I managed to calm him down and we walked away. Me confused, I asked my fiance what was going on and what language was that. He told me that the guy had insulted me in Japanese and that he was just defending me. I then asked how he knew what the guy was saying and how did he know so much Japanese to have an argument with the two people in Japanese. He told me that he knew a lot of Japanese and he can even read and write in Japanese. At this point I got angry and I told him. I've been with him for 3 years and not once did he mention he was fluent in Japanese. He told me that I never asked him if he knew any languages. We got into a huge argument and I feel like he's been lying to me this whole time. I know I never asked him what languages he speaks, but how can someone not mention that they know a different language after 3 years? This was our biggest fight and he's had to sleep in the guest room. He keeps saying that I'm overreacting to the situation and I'm an arsehole for being mad. Gonna have to say, it's kind of innocent this one, this is a stupid argument I gotta say. But I think I'd be happy that the guy spoke another language and he defended your honour as well in that language. And you're not impressed by that. You're not like, wow, look at this, he can speak a whole different language. Instead you get mad at him for that? What kind of logic is that? I think you need to apologise and get him out of that guest room pretty damn quick. But let's have a look at the comments below. The Biter says, "You're the arsehole, you overreacted. I would have been impressed rather than angry." I agree. I'm not sure what that name says, but he says, "Same. In fact, I'd start planning the vacation to Japan immediately." Baby Duck 21 says, "Yes, I would shit a whole house brick worth of impressed if my partner not only broke out an entire language that I didn't know they spoke, but also defended my honour. That's some Hollywood movie level shit right there." The Xn99 says, "This, and by the way, you have a fiance and do not know that he speaks Japanese? What the fuck are you talking about in the last 3 years? Before marrying someone, it makes sense to get to know your future husband." Selmondan T says, "You're the arsehole. Seriously, I'm impressed as fuck." And once again, I turn it to you guys. What do you guys think of this story? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote for story 4 in the poll in the description. And our final story comes from 5 Strings of Bliss. Am I the arsehole for ignoring my dad on Father's Day? I'll do my best to keep this brief. Earlier this week, my parents came to visit my wife and I because we recently had another child. While they were visiting, my father used a word which I won't repeat, but it ends with a hard R. And I told him that he can't use that word in front of my children or in my home. Good time to mention my father and I are both white, my wife and children are not. After some pretty low-powered excuses for why he's not a racist and how it's just a word, I eventually said to him, "You know, you may not think you're racist, but at the very least, you're complicit. So you should really drop the white supremacist bullshit because your white fucking bloodline dies with me." This is when he stormed out of the house and out of the yard, slamming every door he came across. I'll mention, it was also the date on which my older brother would have turned 34, had he not passed 2 years ago. Broke the latch on my fence gate, which I repaired today. Father's Day, ironically. That was Wednesday. After my mum and dad returned home, about a 6-hour drive, he texted my wife saying he was very sorry he left without saying goodbye to her or my kids. Today he finally texted me to wish me a happy Father's Day and say he loved me. Honestly, I'm still pissed. My father has a history of pulling crap like this and pretending that nothing happened, so that I look like the jerk for not ignoring the fact that he was in the wrong and wants to move forward without apologising or even acknowledging he has done anything wrong. There's plenty of other examples of this kind of behaviour from him in my past that I decided to forgive it and forget, even though he never apologised after my only brother died. But I'm not going to tolerate racism, and if he wants a relationship with his sons or grandkids, I think he should apologise, and I'm ignoring him until he does. Am I the arsehole? Edit, just for clarification, my wife is an immigrant from East Asia, not African American, but we do not tolerate racism of any variety in our home. Arakoth says, "Not the arsehole, you did the right thing. Plus," and he quotes, "because your white fucking bloodline dies with me." Savage, you hit a racist where it hurts. Hopefully loving his grandkids can get them to realise that this racist crap is just crap. Investor777 says, "Not the arsehole, your dad sucks. He got everything that was coming to him and you should just cut contact." Nia ID says, "Not the arsehole in any way, shape or form. Your father seems to have issues with being called out for his flaws, and that's a him problem, not yours. I'd probably tell him why you've chosen to ignore him though." Party Out replies, "Not the arsehole. He didn't even apologise for his actions. What the fuck? You can't just apologise for being rude and leave without saying goodbye, without apologising for offending everyone and not being able to see the error of his ways. Also, you aren't obliged to celebrate family, even if / when they are being shitty towards you or your family. Seems like your dad hasn't even truly accepted your wife and kids as family, so why bother celebrating him? Also, ×2 hello, the impact that has on your children to be called said word. I know you didn't mention ages, but no matter what age they are, there's most definitely a heavy influence on them." And finally, for the last time, I turn it to you guys. What do you guys think of the story? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on the poll in the description for story 5. Once again guys, thank you so much for being here today. You are truly, truly appreciated from the bottom of my heart. If you did enjoy, there's another video on your screen as we speak. If you watch that, that'd be amazing too. And once again, a huge thank you to each and every one of the members out there. You're absolutely amazing. You're keeping me going right now. And with that being said, I will see you in the next one. Much love guys. Take care now. Goodbye.